Hello, everyone. Uh, Today we have a session from InfosecGirls chapter Ranchi, and today we have Eden with us. She's a community director at Digital Overdose, if I'm not wrong, and
Yes.
she will be present. She will be guiding us like what problems a women face in tech and how is the life of a woman in tech. So I'll just tell Eden to start with the session.
Alrighty. Awesome. Thank you. So my name is Eden Struth, and I work in application security. I'm actually also an application security engineer. I just got that job, so that's pretty new. And today I'll be talking about working in tech as a woman. So just a quick preface of what we'll be going over. Be going over a little bit about me, why I'm here and giving this presentation, a history of women in tech, in technology and cybersecurity. So we're just going to talk about women that worked in tech and overcame many challenges while doing it. And then we're also going to talk about some modern day women in tech and cybersecurity that I kind of look up to. And I actually had the pleasure of interviewing at one point and sharing their lovely experience as well. So just not my own, but other women's as well. And then we're also going to talk about the challenges you'll face and stereotypes and how you can overcome them. And finally, getting your foot into the door if you already don't work in the field, and if you already know, um, then yeah, you'll be good. And so, preface, I would also like to say anything in red is a link, and I'd be happy to share slides with InfosecGirls, so they can also share this to whoever would appreciate having it, and they can click the links and go through it. Anyways, so a bit about myself. My name is Eden Strutz. I'm 21 years old, and I'm a freelance cybersecurity instructor, penetration tester, web developer. And as I've said, I also now work as an application security engineer at Immersive Labs. If everything goes well, I will be beginning June 7th. I'm also a mentee for application security, and I'm from Arizona, so I lived in the United States, but I now live in the Netherlands with my husband. That's him and I on the screen there. And I have a lot of hobbies like programming and Discord bot development, crocheting, arts and crafts, gaming, and I'm a volunteer and human rights advocate. I have quite a few affiliations. So I'm the Application Security Village lead for DEF CON, or one of them, and my title is the Chaos Wrangler. I'm also a Women in Tech member for Chapter of the Netherlands. I also associate with WOSEC Amsterdam. I'm the chapter lead. I'm an OWASP member, digital overdose community owner and community director, and I'm one of the DOverCon organizers. And we just had this year's conference, which was super fun, really good time. And I hope we will be able to do another one next year. And then I also am affiliated with Global Citizen. And I met my husband in 2018, 2019-ish at DEF CON, and that's the world's largest hacking conference, which was really fun. Anyways, so why I'm here. So I'm kind of here to encourage younger women to go into a STEM field, to talk about the challenges I face in my working environments and how I overcame them, to discuss some common stereotypes and stigmas, and to motivate you to not feel discouraged to work in a male-dominated field, because let's be honest here, it's really difficult. I'm also really passionate about cybersecurity, and I want other women to also get started in an awesome field. And yeah, so here's a little cute little collage of pictures I have. I'm actually wearing the Application Security Village T-shirt right now, and yeah. So a quick brief history of women that work in tech, and it appears that all of my speaker notes had disappeared. So I'm gonna wing it. First off, we have Dr. Grace Hopper. She was a Rear Admiral in the United States Navy. She's a computer programmer, and she had a PhD in mathematics. To preface, she also was the creator of COBOL. She was one of the first women, I believe, working with computers in general. And she was the one who popularized the term computer bug, because when she was, I guess, debugging a computer, literally, she found a moth in her system that was causing glitches and issues. And she's very prominent because without her, we wouldn't have made the technological advancements that we did today. And she lived a very, very big life. I think she's probably the most renowned and well-known woman in tech. But we also have Margaret Hamilton, and she was a NASA software engineer, and she had a bachelor's in mathematics. And many people know this picture that is all the code she had handwritten to help the Apollo space mission. And that is really badass, really really scary because that's a lot of code to handwrite right there. And she's actually the one who pioneered the term engineer in tech. So at the time, there was no such thing as a software engineer. And unfortunately, a lot of men, especially in this time period of the 1950s, 1960s, viewed computing or software development as more of a boring, like, womanly job. And not to say that that's a bad thing that, women can be engineers or developers, but at the time, it just wasn't respected like it is today. And so she's the one who pioneered the term engineer for that. And it's really cool. And then we have Annie Easley, and Annie Easley was a NASA computer engineer in the 1950s, 1960s as well. And this is kind of relevant because during that time, there was still quite a bit of racial tension in the United States. And so she was one of the first 4 Black women in the United States to have worked for NASA. And she also has a bachelor's in mathematics. She was also quite literally a rocket scientist. And so not only being a woman in tech, not only working for NASA, but in the 1960s, where there's this huge racial, tension, desegregation and stuff like that going on. But she was also a rocket scientist, and she worked on a lot of projects that I wish I could recall off the top of my head, but I don't have my speaker notes, so this is kind of difficult. But yeah, no, I would definitely do some more research on Annie Easley, and she's just one of those prominent women in tech whose names need to be known because she's just amazing. And without her, we wouldn't have a lot of the technology we have today. I believe she even did some work with batteries and stuff like that, and it's pretty badass. And so this is kind of where we came from. And so here we are today with some, there's my notes. So here's Dr. Grace Hopper. Like I said, she joined the Navy during World War II, and she was awarded the National Medal of Technology. And like I prefaced, she worked with Colbo. I believe she coined the term for debugging. And she also worked with the Mark I, Mark II, and Mark III computers pictured below. We have Margaret Hamilton. And like I said, she was a software engineer before it was cool. And she worked on the Apollo space mission, and she led a team that developed the software that was the in-flight software for the Apollo space mission. And she has 22 years of experience. So, and then Annie Easley. I can finally talk about what other work she did besides just being a rocket scientist. And she was also identifying energy conversion systems and developed alternative systems to solve energy problems. And she was also a leading team member of which she developed software for the Centaur rocket stage, which is really cool. And unfortunately, she's just not talked about enough. But here we have some modern day women in cybersecurity. And unfortunately, I didn't get to talk to Tanya, but she is really badass. She works in my field as well in application security. And she is part of the We Hack Purple Academy community and podcast. She is the WOSEC founder. She's also part of OWASP DevSlop and OWASP Victoria. And she's also responsible for the Cyber Mentoring Monday on her Twitter. So the hashtag Cyber Mentoring Monday was started by Tanya, and there you can go find cybersecurity mentors if that's what you're looking for, or alternatively, you can offer help and be a mentor to people there. Then we have Vix Saizmianka. She's a cybersecurity specialist and master's student passionate about info security and privacy and user awareness. And Elizabeth Mamola, and she's a graduate apprentice, security analyst, and keynote speaker. So one of my favorite quotes from Dr. Grace Hopper is, "No computer is ever going to ask a new reasonable question. It takes trained people to do that." And I thought that was really nice to mention here because we are going to be those reasonable people. So I asked 6 questions to the 2 wonderful women in tech of Vix and Elizabeth. And what are some stereotypes or stigmas you faced is the first one. And then I also asked, how do you overcome these challenges? What is some advice you tell your younger self in regards to your field of work? And what are some ways young women can get their foot in the door in cybersecurity technology? I also asked, are there any communities or programs that young ladies can get involved in, such as InfosecGirls? And is there any other advice you can give to young women in STEM looking to pursue a career in a field like cybersecurity? So these questions were asked, and I have the responses recorded here. So Elizabeth said, for number 1, what are some stereotypes or stigmas you face in your line of work? And she said, I think there's still a stereotype of an average IT worker being male. And I also asked her, how did she overcome these challenges? And she said, I have learned the hard way not to take things personally and use criticism to improve myself. And then I also asked her, what is some advice you tell your younger self in regards to your field of work? And she said, my younger self was rather a rebel, so I'm not sure whether I would listen to my own advice. If I could, I would tell myself from the past 2 years ago not to be scared to make the leap and that everything will work out just fine, which is really solid advice because I know that advice would have also applied to me a couple years ago. And then for number 4, she answered for the question, what are some young ways women can get their foot in the door in cybersecurity technology? She said, from my own experience, graduate apprenticeship is the best way to kickstart your career in cybersecurity, especially if you don't have a degree. And then for number 5, are there any communities or programs that young ladies can get involved in? And she said, there's a lot of communities that you can join. I've also recently gave my first public speech about my journey to cybersecurity and the apprenticeship program. And joining these communities is a great way to network, meet people, and learn/gain confidence. If you want her full answers, because they did give really detailed answers, both of them, go ahead and click their name on the shared slide, and it should lead you to them. And then I said, is there any other advice you would like to give young women looking to pursue a career in STEM fields like cybersecurity? And she said, 2 years ago, I was full of doubt when making my transition to IT. I have 2 small kids, and I was seriously worried whether I'd be able to be a mom, student, and employee. But this career path has turned out to be so much more amazing than what I was expecting. I work in an amazing company that provides me with an excellent learning opportunity and offers flexibility, so I can always be an awesome mom at the same time. Juggling all those balls at the same time can be difficult at times, but it's totally worth it. And I have to agree with this. This is really awesome that she's able to pull that all off, and not many women can, but she made it work, and I believe a lot of people could too. And then for Vix, I asked for question 1, what are some stereotypes or stigmas that you would face in your line of work? And she said, I am both the youngest member of my department and the only female in a technical role. So I often have to battle the stereotypes of not being knowledgeable/technical enough. And I know a lot of women will also face that same difficulty of being probably the only or one of the only females that they know. And I asked her, how do you overcome these challenges? And she said, I just keep going and working at breaking down these stereotypes. It is important to note that my colleagues do treat me with respect, but we all have decades of social stereotypes and constructs to work against. So I don't blame them when these types of battles come up. And we definitely have to deconstruct a lot of stereotypes, and we will be doing that later today in the presentation. And I asked her, what is some advice you'd give your younger self in regards to your field of work? And then she just said, you're going to be the badass woman in tech you've always wanted to be. Keep going. And I think that could apply to a lot of women who also don't feel like that they're good enough and smart enough, like imposter syndrome. And we'll also get to cover that, hopefully, if we have time. And then I asked her for number 4, what are some ways young women can get their foot in the door in cybersecurity or technology? And she said, there are formal degrees in cybersecurity that can help you along the way and will certainly help with employment. But real-world expertise or experience is extremely valuable and does not have to be gained through employment. Participate in online challenges or labs and document this in a blog, for example. Any evidence that you are interested or willing to go to learn will go far. And then for number 5, are there any communities or programs that young ladies can get involved in? And she said, loads. Depending on where they're based, their government might have a scheme designed to help them into cybersecurity. For example, the UK government has a program called Cyber First, which is aimed at young people. Outside of that, there are plenty of women in tech Discord servers, Slack groups, conferences, meetups, and etc. all over the world. And Twitter is where I found most of these for my local area. And then finally, for question 6, is there any other advice you'd like to give young women looking to pursue a career in STEM fields like cybersecurity? And she said, you are valued, your opinions are valued, and you bring a unique voice to the industry. We need you, and there are plenty of other women out there who will welcome you with open arms. If you are starting out and need a hand, make yourself known and get yourself a mentor. There are many people out there willing to offer guidance, and you only have to ask. And that really resonated with me because I remember one of the most difficult parts of starting in cybersecurity was making that leap to ask for help, because you don't want to look silly or unknowledgeable. But that's the hard part, is you'll never know everything in tech. So definitely ask for help and guidance, because it's super important. And then there are some challenges that I have personally faced in this field: sexism, imposter syndrome, and not knowing where to start, feeling overwhelmed, and giving up. And guilty, I've given up twice before I got back on track with my career in education. And for those of you who don't know what imposter syndrome is, it's a common phenomenon in tech fields and many other places where you compare yourself to others and feel like you don't belong or just aren't good enough. And here's how I overcame these challenges. So with sexism, first off, boundaries. You will see this again and again and again. Being strong in enforcing boundaries or reporting harassment in work environments is the most crucial thing you could probably do. Saying, I don't appreciate that, or maybe even having them explain a sexist work joke if that comes up, and just being on top of not enforcing the idea that sexism in the workplace is okay, regardless of who's saying it. Another one would be communication. And you don't have to find that sexist work joke funny, like I mentioned. Tell them to stop. Ask if they would have said the same thing to you if you were a man. And find allies. Building in numbers and speaking out with other women about this to the company. Women can protect each other in the workplace. So, and then how I overcame the challenges of the imposter monster, I like to call it, or imposter syndrome. And highlight your successes and know that others feel the way you do too. Oftentimes, and I will admit it, I get imposter syndrome a lot. I'm sitting here saying, what am I doing here? Why am I here? And sometimes I have to sit down and I have to say, okay, well, this is why I'm here. And I talk about all the accomplishments that I've already had in cybersecurity, even though I'm just starting. I give talks. This is, I think, my second or third talk now. I talk about to myself internally, or I write it down, all of the things that I've achieved, things I've programmed, things I've built, people that look up to me that have said that to me. And I just have to remember that I have a place in this field. I also should mention regular self-care. Taking care of your mental health is important to keep you feeling 100% and performing 100%. You can't perform well if you're doubting yourself. And it's okay to doubt yourself a little bit. It's okay to be nervous when you take something new, but you should take care of yourself regularly and practice self-care to ensure that the imposter syndrome or the imposter monster doesn't eat you whole. And then take notice when you begin to compare yourself to others. So you can take a step back and shut those thoughts down very quickly. Oftentimes you'll see, oh, this person has this award, or oh, this person's doing that, or oh, this person's super popular. And as soon as you start comparing yourself to these other people, you're going to start feeling bad because you aren't them. And the truth is, you'll never be them. You can't compare yourself to someone else who is in a completely different journey and path in their life and in their career. And it's not fair to yourself to do so, because you are your own person with your own unique values and skills. And it's very easy to kind of fall into that kind of mindset where you're just constantly saying, oh, I'm never going to be good enough, I'm not this person, when that's just not true. And then how I overcame the challenge of feeling lost. So setting attainable goals and having short-term and long-term goals is really a good way to get yourself on track for what you want, even if you're set back a little bit along the way. Oftentimes I recommend SMART goals, and SMART goals are a specific way of goal setting that you'll have to Google. And it's really easy to kind of begin your first goals as SMART goals. In fact, you should probably make all of your goals like that. And that's a good way to kind of keep yourself on track and keep yourself going in the field and learning something new. And once you achieve certain goals, start setting some long-term and short-term goals together. Another one is talking to my peers. By keeping up dialogue with my peers, I was able to gain and share resources that helped me grow a lot in this field. Networking is also really important because you're able to find job opportunities or really fun speaking opportunities like this if you just ask and you talk and you know people. Networking is very big in tech and in cybersecurity. And then finally, courses and classes. That helped me get back on track and up to date with information, especially after I had quit the field, because very briefly I'd started working in the mental health sector. And so when you kind of leave the field for a certain period of time, you don't know all that information you used to, because if you don't use it, you lose it. But on top of that, you're sort of faced with the challenge that technology is always adapting and developing. So when you're gone for, say, a year, there's new technologies, there's new patches, everything has changed. Everything changed. So you have to kind of get back in the saddle and learn previous skills, plus learn new ones on top of that. So courses and classes are really big in helping that. And then here's some 3 stereotypes I have faced. I hope these little faces that I drew on these little bars and things give you a laugh. The first one is men carry all the weight of successful women in tech. And I really cringe when I hear this. This is probably one of the worst that I hear. It's a male-dominated field because women were pushed and shut out. Women paved the way for technological advances, and I know where I belong, and it's in tech. I actually did an interview with InfoSecurity magazine about this issue where I faced harassment for being a woman in tech and how to tackle it. And I believe it'll be linked in the presentation somewhere. If not here, I'm not sure. Or maybe here. Yes, it's here. Number 2, women have worse technical skills than men. This stereotype, I've actually heard a few times before myself, followed up with some sort of sexist remarks, unfortunately. And I've been asked why I chose a field where women weren't made to do it. And I was just appalled by this because women are made to do this. We actually pioneered and started the technical field. It was mostly women because men found it to be demeaning or to not be worth it. And then they realized how cool it was. And now here they are dominating our field that we originally were the majority of. And number 3, women don't belong in tech. I face this one just as often. Peers talk to my husband about my projects rather than me, or completely ignore my presence in technical conversations when in reality, I am responsible for my success. And like I said, I belong in tech. This is my field, and I'm not going to let anyone push me out of it. Oh, no, I didn't want to open that. And then how I overcame these stereotypes. Once again, I shut down sexist remarks, comments, and stereotypes politely but firmly. I reinforced my boundaries. I open up dialogue with about these issues with peers or even HR if necessary, and I talk about how it impacts both me and other women. So I raise awareness about it. And the unfortunate truth is that there are indeed stereotypes and challenges with all fields of work. But I don't let these stereotypes define me, and most importantly, I don't let it impact my skills or work. My job is to ensure people understand the concepts of protecting online data and their users, and nothing will stop me from doing that. So I don't let this define my skills or who I am. And then finally, the fun stuff, getting started in cybersecurity. So research what field you want to go into. Is it cloud security, application security, network security? And those are just security fields. I mean, there's tons. Or even other non-technical, like I guess security roles, like web development, application development, software development. Those are all just as valid and just as popular places to get started. So you definitely have to research what field you want to get into and why. And then get the basics down. So Google what you need to know in this field and try to dive in and learn it yourself. A lot of independent learning is required for this field, and I really recommend you get started as soon as possible because I guarantee there will be a lot. So start with Google because it's a really important skill to have, and you will always hear that from other professionals as well, is you need to Google, Google, Google. Network with people. So this is probably the trickiest one is, look up groups and get into things like Women in Tech or InfosecGirls, or find conferences and connect with people on LinkedIn. Or even people on Twitter and follow and engage them. It seems scary, and it can be sometimes, but getting yourself out there is important, and it can land you fantastic opportunities. I actually found my new position through Discord, and I met the person that I work for now in Discord. And I've also had other really awesome opportunities come up just because I've put myself in these communities and talked with people who also work in these fields who are like, oh my gosh, I love what you're doing. Can I interest you in this position? Keep an open mind and be willing to learn. That's a big one because, again, this field is constantly growing and you need to adapt to it really quickly. Find courses, read books, and of course, ask a lot of questions. Questions are the best thing you can do and ask in this field, especially with your peers or with other, people you work with or people you want to work with. Just ask questions like, how did you get started? Is there any tips you can give? Or even more technical questions like, I don't know, what's the difference between IPv4 and IPv6? So just don't be afraid to ask, but I do recommend that you Google before you do. Unless, of course, it's an open-ended question that's very personal, then you just can't. Another really important one is apply for internships or mentorships and constantly look for these opportunities. Internships and mentorships are a really good way to get started and get your foot in the door because jobs won't just kind of fall into your lap. You have to really work and apply, and it's a competitive field. And oftentimes, if you have someone to kind of back up your experience, like with an internship or mentorship, then you're already getting ahead of others who also want to get started but don't know where to. So definitely apply for those kinds of positions or look for those kinds of opportunities if you can. And if possible, pursue a higher education. It's always a great thing to have a degree under your belt. I know not everyone has the availability to do so, and to be quite honest, college or university is not necessarily required to get started in cybersecurity. I'm actually a cybersecurity student myself, starting in September, and I'm already doing a self-study that is given to me by my university. And I'm just doing that for the degree. A lot of the things in this course I know already, and I know that other people know because my husband has taken this course. So um, it's definitely a great thing to do if it's within your means, but don't feel this, this what's the word? I guess turned away from the idea of starting in cybersecurity because you can't get a degree, because I know in some places it's just not feasible. And finally, thank you for having me here, and a special thanks to Vix and Elizabeth for allowing me to interview them for their personal experiences too. If anyone has any questions, this is the way you can find me. My email is listed at the top. My website for digital overdose is listed there, which you can also contact me through. My personal blog is there. My Discord is listed, and so is my Twitter. So yeah, hopefully you guys have a fantastic day, and thank you for having me.
Uh, Hello. So thank you so much for giving us this informative session, and I hope everyone who was watching it has learned a lot from this session. And it was really very informative to learn so much about it. Thank you so much.
And thank you for having me. It was a pleasure, honestly, and I'd be happy to help out with anyone who wants to get started in the field. In digital overdose, I actually do run courses and classes for this kind of thing, so feel free to reach out for, with any questions that anyone might have, both technical and non-technical, and hopefully I can help out with that. So yeah, thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you. Same to you.